Can we do it? We can do it. We shall do it. We must canonize our own faith, create our own matter, and elevate the positions of fame and honor black men and women who have made a distinct contribution to our racial history.
Yeah, black light, we don't need to talk about it. You better act right when you come around it. Black light, we don't need to talk about it. The proof's in the power and we proud of it, eh? Black light, we don't need to talk about it. You say it 3 times, get some round about it. Black light, we don't need to talk about it. What you gonna hear about it? What you think you know about it?
What's the price
Hello
of a
and
black
welcome
light?
to Real Talk with Raise Up. Thank you for tuning in and joining us for episode 4 with Mazbou Q.
To give you a bit of background on the series, Real Talk is a platform for young people to be able to discuss relevant topics through one-on-one interviews with organisations and locals from our communities.
So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments below. We will do our best to answer them.
I'm Eden, I'm from the Manukau crew, I'm 17 and I've been in the crew since this year.
My name is Boston. I'm from the Onehunga crew and I'm 17. I've been in Raise Up for 4 years. We are here today with Mazbou Q. Welcome. Can you tell us more about your music and your influence?
Yeah, so my music evolved from what was called Afrobeat hip hop into something that I now call alternative hip hop. And basically, I'm just influenced by a whole bunch of things. Obviously, my political activism is a theme through my music. But in terms of the pure musicality, I look to MCs coming out of Africa. I was in a band with that played a lot with Conan in the past, which was rock and metal. So I've got some influences from that part of my life. And I listen to a whole bunch of genres, soul, funk, even classical. So it all plays a part.
Oh, that sounds so cool. You
Thanks,
do some
man.
awesome work.
Appreciate that.
All right, before we get into the deep stuff, we want to fire with some quick fire questions.
Cool.
So,
Where did you grow up and where are you from?
I grew up in Aotearoa and I went to Aotearoa High School. But I was born in the UK in Liverpool.
did you go to Manuel High for like year 9 to year 13 or did you change?
Yeah, from year 9 to year 13. I actually went to Hill Park Primary and Green Meadows Intermediate as well. I came to New Zealand when I was only a little baby, so New Zealand's all I know.
That's so cool. Would you rather cuddle with a baby panda or a baby penguin?
I think I'd go with a panda. I've always wanted to cuddle a panda. As long as its mother's nowhere near, you know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. What is the weirdest food combination you've ever had?
Gosh, I've tried that bacon flavored ice cream stuff. I wouldn't recommend. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't recommend it.
Ooh.
Okay, if you had to get rid of one thing in your morning routine, what would it be?
If I had to get rid of one thing in my morning routine,
Yeah.
probably getting out of bed. I'd love to stay in bed the whole day. That's the hardest bit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right. What is the first instrument you fell in love with?
Drums, definitely drums. So I played piano from the age of 4, but I never really loved it. But when my best friend from primary school introduced me to his drum kit, that's all I wanted to do.
So how many instruments do you play altogether?
Comfortably, I'd say 4, but I could probably play around 6.
Ooh.
Oh, sick.
That's so
Yeah.
cool.
What is the last album you purchased?
Man, I haven't purchased albums in a long time. Goodness, I don't know. Does streaming count, or they have to be actually purchased?
I reckon actually, bro. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually bought. Gosh, I honestly don't know. I'm sorry, I can't answer that one. It's been that
what
long.
was the last streamed one?
The last streamed album would have been, I think maybe Skepta's new album. Yeah.
So from a scale from 1 to Mariah Carey, how good of a singer are you?
Oh gosh. Nowhere near Mariah Carey's level, that's for sure. I can hold a tune and maybe impress a few people who don't know much about singing, but I'm not spectacular. Maybe if Mariah Carey was a 10 and absolute tone deafness was 0, I'd say I'm about a 5.5, 6.
Oh, that's still pretty good. All right.
Yeah,
Appreciate that.
I'm a 0.
Sweet. Now we will learn more about you and your career.
Cool.
ask a few questions. How did you get into music?
Yeah, like I said, I started playing piano at the age of 4. And then throughout school, I started picking up other instruments, drums, as I've said. I also played bass, guitar, and that's when I started experimenting with vocals and became a vocalist. So in high school, I was part of a rock quest band called Roadrunner, and we represented Aotearoa High School, obviously, and we were the first rock quest band from that school to get past the regional final. That was spectacular back then. But that kind of solidified and cemented my desire to take music a bit further. And when I got into uni, I made that band called East of Eden, where I toured with Conin's band and so on and so forth. And then, when that finished, I just ended up wanting to pursue music in other ways. And I thought I'd come back to my second love, which was hip hop, and the rest is history.
Oh, that's so cool. Was that what would have been your dream job as a kid that you thought of, or was it just going to be music?
I went through a few things when I was a kid. I mean, when I was very small, I wanted to be an astronaut. And then sort of growing up through school, I did have dreams of being some kind of astrophysicist or cosmologist. And but then I went through a phase of wanting to be a weightlifter. I went through a phase of wanting to be, I think I had a police officer dream at one point, like a detective, you know what I'm saying? Back when CSI and SUV and all that was big. And then I went through a stage of wanting to be a lawyer. My type of personality is just this and this and that, but I finally settled on, I did engineering at uni and worked as an engineer for a little bit, but then, left all that to pursue music.
Damn, all-rounder.
How would you describe your music?
How do I describe? Yeah, so it's definitely hip hop, but it's alternative. So it's got some interesting influences. I guess the way I'd say it would be left of center hip hop. So it's definitely what you'd associate with hip hop, but it's got some other influences that make it sound a little bit different, and it's got my own sort of flavor. It's got some African stuff in it, but it's also got some rock stuff in it, and
that's your own style.
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
What is your creative process like? Like, how do you figure out what you do?
Yeah, so as you've heard, I grew up playing instruments, so I still consider myself an instrumentalist before a rapper and a singer. So I'll always come to my studio and start playing around with beats. It might either be the rhythm or it might be the melody that I start off with, but it's always the instrumental that comes first. And then after the instrumental, I develop that to maybe about 80% of the way, and then I take it, maybe I'll go for a walk or go for a drive or something, and I'll let the music sit with me a little bit and see what kind of lyrics it inspires and what kind of themes I want to tackle. And then I'll come back and I'll record some vocals. Then after the vocals are recorded, I'll come back again and then adapt what I've done instrumentally to fit the vocals. So it's kind of a synergistic process between the vocals and the instruments coming together. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. So what was the age that you did your first song? Like, you wrote your first song?
I'm probably going to say maybe around 14 or 15. I remember I had a hacked version of Fruity Loops 3. That would have been before you guys were even born. And I was playing around with that, and I made something. I think the song was called Shagalak. I can remember. I think maybe even a couple people listening to this will know that song. I hope it never sees the light of day. It was terrible.
Oh.
It was absolutely terrible.
So you don't want to give us a little snippet of it?
Absolutely not.
How do you think your upbringing contributed to your music?
So coming into my current sort of artist project, if you will, the African inspired hip hop, that was definitely a product of having grown up in a household where African music was played often. And at the time, I didn't really like it because I was into rock and metal. That's all I wanted to listen to. But I guess that music kind of entered my mind and sat in a place that was sort of deep down to be later uncovered when I found out that all these things about my culture are actually beautiful and should be celebrated. So when I came to that point in my life journey, I sort of remembered that kind of music, and I let that sort of influence how I started producing hip hop. And then I guess as that happened, I settled on a sound that was a little bit different to just purely African inspired hip hop. It's evolved a bit. As I said, it's just alternative, but definitely just being in a house full of African music, having parents that sung a lot. They sung gospel music, they sung jazz music, they sung all kinds of stuff. All these influences played a role in me. So yeah, that would be it.
That's so cool. Did you have any did you have any siblings?
Yeah, I've got an older sister.
Oh yeah. Did she influence you as well? Like in that, did she encourage you to just go for it?
Definitely. So she played piano and she sung, and we used to do music together, especially at church. But she saw that music was a deep passion of mine and one that wasn't going to go away. So sort of when I got into my adult years and considered other professional endeavors, she always would remind me that she always said, look, music's a part of your life and you can't escape it. That's one thing that I remember her saying. She said, you can't escape it. You can't run away from it. And that kind of sunk down in my mind a little bit. I'm like, yeah, everything else I've tried to do in my life has been me trying to escape what was inevitable, which is doing music. But I stopped trying to escape it now. So this is what I'm doing.
That's so cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Would you be wanting to do this for like the rest of your life?
100%. So one question I often ask people is if they had no limitations on time or money, what would they be doing day to day? That's the question I used to ask people when we used to talk about the idea of like living out our dreams. And I realized that when I quit my job and did music, when in considering that question, like the answer was what I was doing, which was music. So if I didn't have any limits on my time or money, I'd still be doing the same thing. I'd still be trying to make great music, putting it out into the world. So yeah, and that can take different forms. Right now, I'd love to be performing like overseas. I'd love to win a Grammy. I'd love to do all that stuff, do the real sort of the artist thing. But maybe later I might settle back into production, take a bit of a backseat role. But music always has to be part of what's going on.
Yeah. What are your top 5 tips to anyone wanting to pursue a career in music?
Top 5.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, I think the first thing is genuineness and integrity. So one of the biggest lessons I learned is that you have to, as early as you can, try and figure out what your sound is, and try and hide your I'm going to say references, but I'm going to say hide your influences. So a lot of, especially when it comes to hip hop, a lot of people that enter that space want to sound like Kendrick, or want to sound like Triple X, or want to sound like this or this and that. And that's cool because it's great to have influences. But what they end up doing is producing music that just sounds like a cheap version of those artists. And what I tell them is like, well, if we wanted those artists, we would listen to those artists. The thing is with you, if you're coming out with your own music, we want to be able to go to you for something that no one else can give us. So the thing I encourage people as early as possible to do is find their own sound, carve out their own lane, and go as fast and hard as they can down their own lane. The second tip would be, I guess, there's a sense in which you just have to take on board the critique that you're getting, but you also have to make your own decisions and do what you think feels right. So earlier this year, I changed my name from Unchained XL to Mazbou Q. I had a lot of advice towards me, which was well-meaning and well-intentioned, telling me that maybe I shouldn't change my name at this point because it might there might be a few difficulties to navigate. And I said, yeah, true. But, there's something that just felt really right about changing my name this year. A lot of things in my life aligned. I couldn't really explain it, but I just made the decision. And now looking back on it, all the opportunities that I've had that have come my way, and none of them would have actually come about if I didn't change my name. So I can look back and say, yeah, following my heart, following that feeling that didn't really make a lot of sense, but that was there, ended up being very beneficial. And whilst I did listen to the critique of friends and mentors and peers around me, ultimately I had to make my decision. So that's number 2. Number 3 would just be remind yourself why you're doing it a lot, like have fun, because especially when you start making it a career and you start considering things like money and marketing, getting popularity and stuff, it can be a real chore. And you can get yourself into a space where all you're thinking about is, oh, when am I going to get this many streams? When am I going to get this many plays? When am I going to make this kind of money? When are my gigs going to have this many people? And if you're constantly stressing about that, you just stop enjoying it. So it's important to always come back and be like, why am I even doing this? Do I love doing music? Would I do it even if no one's listening to me? So that'll be the third one. The fourth one would be perhaps, find a mentor. I think a mentor is really important. Find someone who's done what you're wanting to do, or who has been in the industry that you want to go into, and just find as much information as you can from them. Learn from their mistakes, and take on everything on board, and try and grow from it. And then I guess the fifth one would be, as you learn, pass that information on to other people. So the best thing about doing music, or one of the best things about doing music, is being able to take people along with you, people who are starting their journey after you, and see them grow, and see them learn from the mistakes that you've made, and see them being like grateful to you and thankful to you, and just, I guess, absorbing how much that your journey can have an influence on other people. Because at the end of the day, we're social people. We love community. We love other people. So it's easy to get into a place where what you're doing is isolated and very by yourself. But if you have other people there that you impart your knowledge onto, it's very fulfilling as well. So yeah, that would be my top 5 off the top of my head.
That's so cool. Is there like a reason why you chose Mazbou Q? Does it have a meaning, or is it just...
Yeah, it does have a meaning. I don't tell people explicitly what it is, but I do give a hint. So it is encoded from my actual birth name. If you do know my birth name, you might be able to deduce where Mazbou Q comes from.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What's your favorite gig you've done so far?
Oh gosh, so I'd say there are 2. One was Festival 1 earlier this year, on the main stage, which was an incredible crowd. Ever since I was young, I went to Parachute Music Festival, which is now sort of given the baton on to Festival 1, but I've always dreamed about playing on the main stage there. So I guess in many ways, playing there this year was a dream come true. The other favorite gig would have been last year when I released my second EP called The Migrant Mind. That was crazy because we packed out a venue called Neck of the Woods, and all my friends and family were there to see me. They knew the words to my songs, and they were excited. They were just ready to go. They were energetic, and just playing in front of a crowd who's there for you is incredible. So that would have been my other favorite.
Oh yeah, 2 pretty big ones. Is there like a famous singer that you really want to sing with, or at least open for?
Yeah, I've got a few. That I'd love to open with, that I think my sound would complement very well. So a lot of you know, Stormzy's coming here at the end of the year. I'd love to be able to open for him. He in many ways influences what I do. There's another rapper or singer called Jidenna, who wrote a song called Classic Man, that blew up a few years ago. He's from the same ethnic group as me. So I'd love to make some music with him. Another one would be a Ghanaian rapper called Manifest, who has influenced me in many ways again. So yeah, probably those 3.
Oh, that's so... Any girls?
Any girls? Look, yeah, plenty. So there's a singer called Esther, who's New Zealand, but she's based in the UK, I believe. I'd love to make music with her. She's of African descent. Another one would be Sampa the Great. She made an amazing song called gosh, I've forgotten the name of the song. But it's beautiful. Oh, it's called no, it's gone again. Final Form is the name of the song. I'd love to make music with her, because I think what she embodies and what she's about as an artist is very similar to what I'm about. So yeah.
That is so cool. So we're lucky enough to have you be a part of Newfound Sound event. You're a judge at our Newfound Sound 2019. What was your experience like with the whole process?
Yeah, no, it was very cool. Growing up, I'd been involved in numerous competitions like that, and I've always sort of wondered what it would be like to be on the other side. So having done that last year was my first sort of dipping of my toes, so to speak. And yeah, I loved it. I'm a natural mentor, I think, and a natural teacher. So I love being able to sort of see where the kids were at and impart some knowledge and encouragement to them afterwards. And also just having a look at what kids think that good music is, and what they consider good performances, and how that's sort of changed and evolved over time. And it caused me to reflect on what we were doing, like me and Connor were doing when we were a bit younger. And it's just quite an interesting thing to observe. So yeah, I loved every minute of it.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
Is there anything in particular you're looking for this year?
Yeah, so we're definitely looking for, my biggest thing was engagement with the crowd. And that doesn't just mean what's going on between songs, but it also means what's going on during the song. So there's a big difference between people who perform, who just perform to a crowd and perform with the crowd. Making the crowd feel like they are a part of what's going on, I think, is one of the most powerful things you can do as an artist on stage, because at the end of the day, the most memorable concerts and shows you'll ever go to are the ones that you'll come home feeling like, I was a part of that, like this was something that was happening that involved everybody. So if you can learn to do that as an artist, and it's not just the lead singer, everyone has a part to play, and just the way you engage with people with your eyes, with your body, and so on and so forth. If an artist can really take command of a crowd and make them feel involved, I think that will help them stand out from all the other acts on that day.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, because I was remembering when you were saying how it's not just the lead singer, I was remembering back when I went to a concert and, like, I think it was the guitarist or something who just wasn't feeling it, and it just dropped the mood completely.
Definitely, everyone had to be on board.
Yeah, everyone's just got to have fun with it. You don't want it to be a thing that you have to do.
Exactly.
So the regional finalists are lucky enough to do a workshop with you to help better prepare them for the finals. What can they expect?
Yeah, so like I said, that crowd engagement thing, I'll be having a chat to people about that. I'll also be talking about some small technical things. For example, just paying attention to detail can change a performance. So making sure your instruments are in tune. You'll be surprised at how many people don't tune their instruments. Stuff like when drummers aren't consistently hitting hard, they might drop off towards the end. They might sort of lose some energy, not pay attention to every hit, or when band members don't listen to each other necessarily. So the thing is, yes, you're performing to the crowd, but you're performing with each other, and it's important that you're bouncing energy off each other, listening to the natural ebbs and flows of tempo and rhythm and dynamic. And these are the kind of things that don't necessarily come naturally and need to sort of get some kind of coaching in there. So it's just that kind of, it's just the last 10% sort of polish that a band that can take a band from being good to being great. That's the kind of stuff that I'll be trying to impart.
Yeah. Have you ever done that in any of your performances, like just kind of gotten worn out and kind of drifting a little bit?
100%. So the cool thing about me being able to do these workshops is I can just teach everyone exactly where I've fallen down myself, or I've failed myself. Like, I don't know how many live shows I've played. As Mazbou Q, I average about 40 or 50 per year. And then as East of Eden, we did probably a bit more than that. So I've played countless shows and I've made all the mistakes there are to make. Including just getting tired, not being able to manage my energy, not necessarily being as interested as I could be, not being as passionate as I could be. Sometimes you just have to fake it till you make it. So I've made all the mistakes, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, I'll definitely be trying to help people where I've myself have failed.
Yeah. So with this competition, there's going to be a lot of people wanting to win and wanting to have a chance with you. So are you going to be taking any bribes?
What are you offering? You know what I'm saying? What are you offering?
I don't know. What is it to offer? What will you take?
Look, do your research, fam. You know what I'm saying? Do your research. Do some research on me. Find out what I like, and we can have a chat about it.
Well, everyone loves free food, so maybe a free feed.
Maybe you have to find out what food.
Okay. Thank you for being here today and letting us pick at your brain about the music industry.
No problem.
If you're a young musician, either soloist or group, and want to be a part of the event, the link is in our IG bio to register. Would you like to say anything to the audience that are listening right now?
Yeah, okay, so definitely make sure that you keep supporting New Zealand music. So what I find is that a lot of people, for example, I mean, I know younger students don't have money, but when you get a bit older and you do have a lot of disposable income, a lot of people are ready to pay something like $300 or $350 to go see someone like Beyonce at Spark Arena, which is great. But I think it's important to remember that Beyonce started off as a musician, much like these kids that are going to Newfound Sound. You know what I'm saying? She started off like that. She started off needing local support. And even after she grew up and started performing, she would have been performing to local crowds. So it was super important that as much as you're spending this money on seeing these amazing American artists come to New Zealand, that you're willing to go out there and support the artists in your backyard that are doing the work and going as hard as they can go, because without the local support, there's no way we're going to get international. And it's important that we can put Kiwi musicians on, because we deserve a shot just as much as these guys in America do.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, we have learned so much today, and we'll definitely be taking some experience away. If you'd like to learn more about Mazbou Q, his social media is up here, right? And for more info about Newfound Sound, make sure you follow Raise Up right here. Bye.
Tune in for episode 5 with family planning. For now, take care and stay safe. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Now what you know, what you know, what you know. Now what you know, what you know. Now what you know. Now what you know.
What's good? J Money. Heard about me, they don't know me though, but they know from the wave it's a money flow. I baptized the beat like a Holy Ghost, so nowadays I get around it coast to coast. I just spread my talents like an octopus and became